This is Character Crusade number 29.
You're listening to Character Crusade.
Greetings, Crusaders. You're listening to Character Crusade, Skyrim Roleplay Workshop. I'm Stu.
And I'm Joe.
And I'm Matt.
And this is our listener appreciation episode.
Because we appreciate our listeners.
We do.
Certainly do.
We do. And we fear that our listeners have been feeling unappreciated for a while now because we haven't gotten to listener mail.
Well, we've had so many great people on.
I know. We've been plenty busy thanks to all you. We certainly do appreciate all of your support. That's allowed us to really get out and interview some really cool and interesting people who have lots of interesting things to contribute to our Skyrim discussions and all kinds of different discussions. So we've been very busy setting up interviews and kind of working on all these technical issues and all of that stuff. But we couldn't do any of it without you. And I think something exciting to mention, obviously, is in the next episode, we're going to be interviewing Rycon of Rycon Roleplays, which is going to be super fun. He's a very talented YouTuber and role player, and he does a Skyrim roleplay as well as a lot of other ones that are really interesting, quite unique, and very entertaining. So we'll be talking to him. And then sometime here coming up in June, we haven't finalized the date. We've finalized the interview. We're going to be talking to Voices from the Dark with a special guest, Jessa, joining us for that interview as well.
Great.
That is going to be fun and raucous, and we're going to have a great time talking to Voices from the Dark. He is another great, talented YouTuber who's done a lot of Skyrim roleplay work as well as some machinima stuff. So we'll have a lot to talk about with him, too. So very cool. Couldn't have done any of it without all of your support. We really do appreciate it.
I like the fact that they're bringing their unique perspective, and in the cases where there are other YouTubers, they're bringing some people over to our content. We've got lots of our folks going over to them as well.
Yeah.
So there's a nice cross-pollination.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Well, it's really, all the like minds coming together.
Big community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so.
And the Tamriel Vault stuff as well. Lots of traffic going to them, hopefully.
Yes, absolutely. The Tamriel Vault stuff has been a lot of fun. We're just kind of getting our feet under us on that. We launched our first episode about a week and a half ago.
About that.
Something like that. And that's been pretty well received. It was kind of a rough cut, and it turned out pretty well. We are getting ready to release another one very shortly. We're excited about that, and we're hoping that over time we'll be able to increase our velocity there as we get a little bit better organized. But we're very honored and excited to be able to bring all of that really great content to YouTube and to iTunes and SoundCloud and Stitcher and all of those podcast outlets as well. So
Right.
you're going to be able to get those character builds in both video and audio format, which is very cool. So
We're everywhere.
we are everywhere.
Trying to get in your head from every audio source possible.
Any angle possible.
Well, as we were saying before, we really can't do it without your support. So we appreciate so very much all of you, and those of you who have contributed to what we're doing on Patreon. We definitely appreciate that. Yay!
Yay.
Yeah, and so I think tonight we want to thank a couple of new Patreon contributors. We're going to thank Eric and Alexander, who have both begun contributing to our Patreon campaign here over the last couple of weeks. We really appreciate the support. We have been able to hit our first goal, which was $50 a month. And as a result of hitting that goal, we've been able to start putting out content weekly.
Yes.
That is a major milestone for us. So
Both exciting and scary. And people are wondering if we've lost our minds as a result, but that's
Yes.
okay. I don't think they're wrong.
I know, right? Well, for those of you who are paying attention, we've got a major flurry of content production going on here. So Matt has started work on the Fireside Stories project. We've published 2 episodes of that now,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And those are coming out in the off weeks from the podcast.
Correct.
So,
Which are awesome.
Yes.
Well done, Mr. Matt.
yes, very, very good.
I appreciate the compliments from everybody.
Yeah. Last week's reading, what was last week's reading, Matt?
Was that Well?
That was Well of
This
Sins.
last week was Well of Sins. Yep, just released a week ago Friday. Before that was Eradius Bolar from one of our listeners, Tom.
That's right.
And they rack up quite a bit more views and listens than I expected. But it's good to have good story.
I know.
So people did really seem to like the sound effects,
Kind of the ambient.
and,
Yeah,
ambient,
yeah.
atmospheric sound.
it
We won't
adds
be
a
able to
nice
do that
touch.
on everything, but that was a special instance where we had a chance to do that. Where we can, maybe we'll do that in the future. But just a reminder, we're not reading everybody's entire War and Peace length stories. We want to make sure people can read them on their own too. Just like Morgan Freeman, though, you can, of course, imagine them being read with my voice if you would like. But we'll have those coming out every other week. So,
Yeah.
or imagine Morgan Freeman reading them. I don't know.
Exactly. No, we've got our own in-house Morgan Freeman, so that's pretty good.
We'll have to have Jimmy read some.
Yeah. I mean, I've been really impressed too with how much people have been enjoying those, and they're short snippets of people's stories, but something about fan fiction is interesting, and this is a form that we don't get to see it in very
Right.
often.
Right.
Most often you've got to get online and read it. Here you can kind of listen to it and take it with you. And I think with your excellent readings and the ambient music and things like that, it turns into something really special. So I'm very excited about that.
And a recording of a bonfire in my yard, by the way.
Is that
Is
where
that
that came
really?
from?
Back. Oh, yes.
Awesome.
Oh, yes.
I was wondering if you got the sound effect there, but you recorded your own sound
I
effect?
did. Of course I can.
That's
Fantastic.
awesome.
Why would I not?
I know, right? So you are hearing the sound of Matt's backyard.
It's on fire.
That's awesome. I love
My
that.
stuff burning. Yes.
So the Tamriel Vault stuff, then, of course, we're doing that, and that's also coming to the podcast stream, which is just another additional piece of content that you're going to start seeing in the podcast stream. So if you're subscribed to us through a podcast player, that stuff's going to be popping up in your feed automatically. If you want to see all that stuff split into separate playlists, you can also go to SoundCloud, and you'll find it all broken into separate playlists. So if you want to listen in batches or sections, that's another way to do it. I know iTunes does not provide that capability, so you can go to SoundCloud or use the SoundCloud player on your mobile device and see it all split up into categories. Which
And that's
is
what I use.
kind
I
of
just use a
convenient.
SoundCloud player.
Yeah, I've started doing that as well. It just
Well,
seems
since I
easier,
have an Android
so-
and I don't have iTunes on my mobile device, That's my choice.
SoundCloud, it is.
SoundCloud it is.
Yeah. But, you can also use other podcast players that,
Right.
The stream that we create, iTunes is just one of the outlets that picks up the stream. So if any podcast player, as long as it's plugged into the standard kind of podcast catalog, is going to pick this stuff up.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter if you're using Stitcher or Overcast or whatever it is.
Podcast Addict is what I started with.
Yeah, it's going to pick it up. So it's all there. Then we've also got Joe's story. You published something this week? Last week?
That is coming out
Last week.
in off weeks as well.
Okay, so that would have been
So
last
that would have been last Wednesday. Correct.
Okay. And what chapter are we up to now?
The chapter 9 just released, so coming up after this podcast is released will be chapter 10.
Sweet.
Excellent.
It's so nice to have a little bit of leeway in between recording and releasing when we've got all of your story content and we've got all these stories coming in from the listeners.
Oh, for sure.
The ability to focus on production for this podcast, plus all the video work, plus all the Tamriel Vault stuff. I hope that people are enjoying it. It seems from the comments and streams and likes and everything on YouTube that people are paying attention to all of it, which is great.
Absolutely. And I think the best indication of that is the fact that we eclipsed 1 million views on Couch Warrior TV 2 days ago, which is kind of amazing. That we've increased a lot the amount of content that we're producing and the amount we're producing in a shorter period of time, I guess, which has had a really positive impact on things like views and subscriptions and stuff. So we appreciate all of you who are kind of, getting the word out for us and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we've had some people buy a few things from the store too, right?
We sure have, which is fantastic. So just wanted to say on behalf of We the Gentlemen Bastards, thank you for your patronage. And
they're going around the planet.
They are going around the planet. What did you say earlier? Scotland,
Iceland,
and
Minnesota.
Yep. I'm sure other areas in the United States here too.
Yep. So, which is fantastic.
And it's fun to see
around the world.
Yeah, well, we had people commenting in comments a few months ago wondering when their Naked Nord t-shirts were going to be available. So,
and it sounds like they've arrived.
They're available, so you can cover your Naked Nordness with a Naked Nord t-shirt, which you commented was very ironic. But please, buy one in every size and color and solve that nakedness problem.
Yeah,
that's right.
If you want, you can always cut little holes for the nipples. If
I suppose you could do that.
If you wanted to keep it real.
Wow. Still kind of Naked Nord.
Trying to figure out if we could ever do Naked Nord Daisy Dukes.
Why not?
Or if that's something you got to figure out on your own.
You might have to figure that out on your own.
Yeah.
Have to submit Character Crusade photos for that.
I know, right?
Talking about the store too, I think it's important to note that on the release of this episode, May 13th, we are going to be installing another sale.
Another sale?
That is our shopping system is giving us another chance to woo you in with a what is it here? It's $5 off any order of $30 or more.
Awesome. How long does that go, Joe?
That goes from May 13th to May 18th. So just a 5-day spread.
And we'll provide a reminder on Facebook as well.
Yeah, we'll put it up on Twitter too.
I think we should put it everywhere. So, Skywriting, whatever's available to us at the time.
So 5 off for anything 30 or more.
Okay. Is there a coupon code or how's that work?
There is a coupon code, which I believe you add that into your shopping cart.
Yep.
When you're checking out. And that is Take 5 Now.
Take the number 5.
Take the number 5 now.
Okay. Take 5 now.
Correct.
Excellent.
Someone types in take the number 5 now. They're going to be really mad.
What? It's not applying.
But I believe also you can, there is a up in the upper right-hand corner, you can click it, and it will tell you the coupon code as well. So,
Yep.
And we'll try to make it convenient.
Yeah, we'll be publishing images on Facebook and Twitter like we normally do that include the coupon code. So just reference those if you need to.
I'd be interested to know what kind of reasonable suggestions for other gear people might like.
Yeah, I mean, there really is a lot that we can do. We can do, backpacks and all, phone cases and all kinds of different stuff.
Onesies and bandanas and mugs. We've already got mugs.
Yeah,
like
tried to
big
just
steins.
keep it under
Big
control
moss.
here.
Big Oktoberfest moss.
Yeah.
If you got ideas, let us know. If it's within our power to do that, we will. So.
We've got a feedback form for that kind of thing.
We sure do.
It's been on our website for almost 30 episodes now.
Yep. Yeah. And we've had some listeners who have bought our product who sent us nice photographs of the stuff they've purchased and commented that it was very nice.
If I remember seeing, they even posted them up on the Facebook page.
Yes. Yep. Did they? Awesome.
They did. Yeah.
Awesome.
So
mugs side by side.
Yeah.
Looks fantastic.
Look
well, it helps a lot because it's a way that you can support what we're doing if you'd rather not get involved in a monthly Patreon campaign. And it also helps to get the word out. So when you wear that T-shirt and somebody asks, hey, where did you get that lame T-shirt? You can tell them.
You can say, well, the one that's on top of the awesome T-shirt.
What the hell's a Nord? So we certainly do appreciate that. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's still not the only thing, because since we're having a listener appreciation episode, now that we've gone through all these other things that we appreciate the listeners for, we have people on iTunes who are appreciating us as well. So it's time for us to return the favor.
Let's do that.
All right. Well, we have a couple bits of feedback. Again, 5-star ratings on iTunes. One from Crash Murdoch. This has been out there a little while, but again, we've been interrupting our thankfulness with interviews.
We're playing catch up, people.
Playing catch up. So this one, the comment says, truly great. I've seen a lot of video game podcasts, but this is the first one that I've encountered that talks about role-playing within a virtual world that doesn't involve other players. I've been a D&D fan for years and have struggled with finding a group. This podcast has opened my eyes to the fact that Skyrim can scratch that itch. You guys just keep on scratching over there.
Yes.
And they show that the adventure of Skyrim is not limited to the storylines provided by the game itself. Lastly, I've found that their talk about character and story has helped me in my writing outside of Skyrim. Truly a great podcast.
Cool.
Well, thank you, Crash Murdoch.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
They're still scratching across the table. I'm going to back up a little bit.
I pretty much scratch continuously as we record. So, yeah.
Well, that one from Crash Murdoch is followed on with one from Daniel Foster C. It's probably pronounced differently. Maybe it's Foster. I can't tell. And that's okay. Great content and feel. Just started playing Skyrim a month ago. Hang on for a minute. I just would like to say that I'm not the last person to pick up Skyrim. Thank you, Daniel. That's wonderful. Their take that continues on. Their take on playing role-playing games is a completely new concept for me, and I absolutely love it. I started a new character and created a background story for him. Their way and concepts of playing is honestly a lot more fun than just plowing through the game. Definitely worth a listen. Thank you so much.
I love hearing that.
Yeah. That's kind of what we're trying to get to.
The whole point.
Yeah, it's great that it gets across it.
Absolutely.
That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Well, I participate in the podcast,
nice
and I learn something every time I'm sitting here listening to you guys talk or watching you play. So
yeah. Well, if you want to leave a comment, we certainly do appreciate it. You can do that on iTunes. Log into your iTunes account and go to our podcast page. Mm-hmm. From there, you can leave us a rating or a review. If you leave us a review, we will read it on an episode. So you'll be immortalized on Character Crusade for what it's worth.
Even those people that submitted lyrics got immortalized.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. The bar's pretty low at this point, so
get in while the getting's good.
Yeah, if you're going to submit lyrics, at least submit I don't know what, something that fits.
Make it interesting.
Yeah, right.
English helps. Not whatever the Bee Gees was.
Yeah. So
thank you to everybody on iTunes,
sure.
to everybody on Patreon, to everyone everywhere.
Everyone everywhere.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right. You know what? It's time for an update from the vault, gentlemen. And this segment is something that we're adding to our podcast because we've created this fantastic partnership with Tamriel Vault. We're very excited to be working with them. And as we said earlier, we're getting up and running here. We're kind of smoothing out the process, but we will be launching another Tamriel build very soon. And the one that we're covering next is called the Trebite Monk. And we're pretty excited about this one. It's kind of a really great sort of battle mage, a very unique style of battle mage. And you know, there's so many great builds out there, and we've been working with the folks over there to try to figure out what to cover first. They've been kind of slowly spoon-feeding us some of the builds they think would be good ones to start with as we're kind of working through our production process. Our first one, if you haven't seen that yet, you can check it out on YouTube. The audio obviously is available in the podcast stream also.
Shadow scale.
But yeah, that was the Argonian shadow scale. And that was kind of a rough cut, but it turned out great. We got a great response to it. We got some helpful feedback from folks, and we're making some adjustments. And so we're ironing it out as we go. But the Trebite is the next one, and we have something queued up for the third one as well, which I'm not going to divulge yet. But
suspense.
Yeah, if you are interested in doing another or a new playthrough of Skyrim, want to try something completely unique, go to tamrielvault.com and check out their archive of character builds. It's really deep. There's lots of good information in these things that will kind of give you some clues about things like lore and role play, tactical stuff, how to spend your perk points, what things to invest in, and kind of set the stage for you to take that and make it into your own. Sometimes it's almost easier to go and mine a few ideas after you've played through this game a few times and figure out what works for you. Certainly a lot of stuff there to choose from, and it's all fantastic. So
plus, it's a ginormous community out there, which is great.
Yeah, it's very accepting, very active community with a lot of great content, including fan fiction and all kinds of stuff. So,
oh, yeah. They got a lot of good stuff in there.
A lot of good stuff.
Very helpful people.
Now, Joe, you've been posting your story out there, right?
I have been. I've been pouring it kind of over a little bit, trying to put in stuff on a weekly if I can, or a couple times a week. And I really need to get in there and dive into some of the other stories too, because there's really a lot of good.
There's
writers
a lot
there.
of really good content out there.
There's a lot of good writers in there.
Yeah.
So it's a great place to get some good feedback and also just improve your own techniques.
Yeah.
I've just been lurking. I haven't been posting anything.
Yeah, I've been posting, but I've kind of been lurking on the, going and reading some of the other things and just so I can get a better feel before I really start laying, adding in.
Yeah, it's really great. I mean, if you've got a concept in mind even, but you just have some questions about the lore, you go out there and just post a question. They'll start a discussion thread on it, and you'll get more information than you ever imagined, So, check it out, tamrielvault.com. We really appreciate their support and value that partnership. We're looking forward to all kinds of cool things in the future. Well, that brings us to Crusader Mail. I think it's time for us to dive into this. So let's go ahead and do that. All right. It's time for us to dive into the Crusader mailbag. So who do we got first, Joe?
It's a big mailbag if one of us is diving in.
I know, right?
I'm going first.
The Santa's mailbag.
It's freaking vast.
Well, we're going to start out with Eric. That's Eric with an A from Cincinnati. And he is looking for some...
I'm gonna throw that in there.
Sorry, had to.
Yes.
Oh?
Sorry, Eric.
Anyway,
Okay.
Eric from Cincinnati with an A and an O.
Well, Good God, dude.
Just read it.
I'm trying.
Sorry.
All right. So Eric has an idea that he wants to create a generational role play. I'll just kind of read through what he's submitted here. This probably isn't a unique role play idea, but I've decided I want to try to have a generational player. So my main player up to now has been Alaric. Sorry if that pronunciation is incorrect. And I think it's time that Alaric had a son. Alaric has a couple mod properties in various parts of Skyrim, that is houses. I'm trying to figure out how I would go about building a son who would be essentially growing up in the father's household, would eventually inherit the estate, the wealth, his father's swords, possessions, etc., and in turn sire a child of their own. So I'd enjoy hearing how you would go about this. I have some ideas, such as using some of the techniques from Five Fables to incorporate different players. And I believe at one point we mentioned a mod, you can turn your character into an NPC. So we can kind of go over some of that.
Absolutely.
So I have a couple questions as we get into that, because I don't know, can you create characters that are children or child-sized, and could you potentially go through the game and replace your character with one that you built? Because you don't age in Skyrim, right? But the father here would always be older, but you could, in theory, play through a couple of different characters as you sort of age through the game, right?
You could.
That's a good question. I don't know if the mechanics would allow you to...
I think what a person would probably do is maybe, you create a level 1 character and, you make them look as young as you possibly can using something like RaceMenu. So maybe you make them slighter of build and lighter, kind of a fairer complexion. And
you can also adjust the height and the weight, so you could make them smaller.
You could. I think, there's an interesting question here, obviously, about what are you doing from a gameplay perspective? What quests has the father done, and what quests are going to be set aside for the son to complete, right? And you could augment that obviously with some outside quests from mods like Falskaar, Worm's Tooth, or any of those, Moonpath to Elsewhere, things like that.
I have never done that one.
Oh, I've heard really great things.
Yeah,
about
I have
it.
too.
I've not tried it yet, but so I mean that's part of it, obviously. But my thought is that Eric's already considered that, and when he's asking more about here and the mechanics of how to make this work. So the question is, how can we create a game where your previously played character is in the game as a character also?
Right.
I only know of a couple of ways to do that. One is using the mod Familiar Faces.
Right.
Familiar Faces allows you to take a saved character and make them into an NPC. Right. So then you could start a new game and then bring the father character
Port
in.
that character in.
Right. Yep. Bring that father character in as, I guess, essentially a follower that you could sort of have present, if you will.
Yep.
One thing to consider before you do that is go into the saved game of the character that's going to be the father, use a tool like RaceMenu to age them.
Good idea.
Then create your Familiar Faces save with the character aged so that they look significantly older than the child character that you're going to create in your next playthrough. And then, in your mind, maybe you're saying something like 18 years later, or something like that, right? But, as far as them having the same gear and the same houses, obviously, right, you can have all the same mods in there.
Yep.
So you've got the same player home and the same gear available, and you can console that stuff in,
Right,
And that's honestly, that's the way I would handle it. Even if the father character has created a sword that's been enchanted and smithed up to legendary and all these different things, I would consider creating the younger character with a replica of that sword without the smithing and without the enchanting, because then what you're doing is you're simulating that younger person's path as they get better and better with the sword, for example. So they're starting at level 1 just like the father did, right? And maybe they learn some basics of smithing from their father, right? Those kinds of things.
Right.
So, I mean, that I would say that's one way that you could do it if you don't want to get into messing around with Creation Kit. If you're willing to
go the extra step.
Yeah.
The sneaky smile you can't see on this side.
I don't discourage it by any means.
No.
It can be a lot of fun, and it's always really
Maybe
useful.
don't go into Creation Kit on your level 60 character or something.
It's an adventure. It's an adventure. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to be a bit more adventurous and maybe create something on your own, in other words, create your own NPC character using Creation Kit, you can save the facial data of the father character. Again, I would age them first, then make the save of that facial data.
Right.
You can do that using the console. So you open the console and you type in SPF space and then the name of the character, and that gets saved in the root folder of your root Skyrim folder. And it's just the file would be named charactername.npc. You just keep track of that file, because then once you get into Creation Kit, you can create a new NPC and then import that facial data, and the PC that you end up creating will look just like your old player character did. If you're going to try it, I highly recommend going out to Dark Fox 127 and watching his latest and greatest NPC followers tutorial, because he'll walk you through exactly how to do all of it, including how to make them into a follower and add them to the right faction, give them AI packages, all the stuff that you need to know. It sounds daunting, but it's not as difficult as it sounds, and it could be pretty rewarding, I would think. But so that's another way to do it if you want to take the extra time.
Cool.
Yeah. I think it's a great idea.
I like it. Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. I
So
do
it's a
too.
huge number of roleplay possibilities there.
Yeah.
Could be a lot of fun.
Especially if you're going to have somebody inherit everything later
Yep.
down the road, then you have to deal with,
Yeah.
passage of time, passage of dead.
Yeah.
I was reading somewhere that clean up your corpses was removed. I don't know if there's anything that once dad dies, what you
If
do for a
that's-
funeral pyre.
Yeah, if that's not in the Nexus anymore, then I'm not sure if there's any
I don't know either.
Any other
comparable.
options? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I would be interested in hearing back from Eric on this. Specifically, it would be fun to hear how he plans to break out the available quests. In other words, which quests did Dad do, and which quests is the son going to do? I think that would be interesting to hear how he plans to break that down.
And if you overlap them, what's the storyline that
Yeah.
That ties it all
creates that
together.
overlap? So,
Yeah.
did something happen that was undid his father's work?
Oh yeah, it's a variation on the Epicosity project. That
Really?
I think
that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it's really intriguing, the idea that they could be related and that you're just kind of at this generational experience. Just kind of ignore the in-game dates and times, right?
Yeah.
And you focus on your own timeline, and I love that.
It's a cool idea.
Very cool.
It's very cool.
All right, Eric, hope that helps. Who's next?
All right. Our next question comes from our good friends down under. Pitbull 264 from Australia. And Pitbull says, I've been watching Skyrim roleplays for a while and love them, but I have only just started role-playing myself. Excuse me. And I am having trouble getting into character and playing as my character. And I have seen how it's done on YouTube with voices and that sort of stuff, but I never really feel comfortable with doing all that myself. So I guess what I'm asking is if there are any tips you could give me to make me feel more like my character as I'm playing to get more into the roleplay style, rather than just feeling as if I'm a puppet master controlling a weird and powerful puppet. Good question.
That is a good question.
I would just like to remark that having seen when Robard is voiced while playing, as Robard, that started having me think about when I'm playing through my game. Just the very act of speaking out loud as the character completely changed the way that I was playing.
Do you start doing that?
Oh, totally.
Really?
Yeah, which is really difficult for me to do for a female character. But the thing is, but when you're playing and you do that, you don't really think about I'm playing a character. It's I'm naturally reacting to what's going on.
Right.
You know, what's with the chicken? Get this kid out of my way. Would you stop talking to me? I don't have any septums to give you. You know, and you sort of find, for me, I find my way in that, and I'm not trying to voice a character. I just found that if I'm in a place where I can talk out loud to the game, I'll talk out loud, and I get into my character a lot faster. What I should do is turn on the mic, and you guys can hear what I sound like. But for me, that's one thing that might help, and you guys may have a different way of sort of getting into character.
Yeah.
Well, I know with with almost all the writing I've done so far, it's all been internalized, so it's all like journals and that type of narrative. So I have a tendency to play with that narrative role playing in my head.
Right.
You know, it's kind of rolling. So I don't talk out loud, but it's like playing with, got a little voice in your head is going. So whereas you externalize the voice, mine goes inside because that's what I'm used to doing. And then periodically when I get to a point in the game where I feel like, you know, there's a pause in the action, if you will, I'll sit down and then I'll note out various highlights.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So Joe's journal entries are kind of an externalization.
Basically,
of his role play. That's not a voice acting job. It's a literary job.
That would be a very good comparison, I think.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. There's a lot of different ways you can do this. And I mean, my first thought is, until I started making YouTube videos, well, actually, and a long time after I started, actually, I don't voice a character as I play, but I also have a very vivid and overactive imagination. So the narrative is going on inside my head even as I'm playing. I'm hearing the things the characters are saying. I'm understanding their attitudes. I'm understanding their belief systems. And this is going on in my head as I'm playing. However, I will say that since I've got to the point where I am spending more time as with Fleet, either journaling and writing in the character's voice outside of the game, or in the case of Robard, where I'm getting more actively involved in voicing the character as I play, it's a richer experience. So
I like the idea of the word attitude you used. Makes a big difference, because if you're just playing like a puppet master, it's very different. You don't really feel as viscerally involved. I like the idea of knowing your character's attitude, which changes during the gameplay, which changes whether you're traveling place to place or whether you're in combat, whatever. I think that word attitude sums up a lot.
Yeah, I think it's important too to note that all these great Let's Plays and these videos being put out on various games, it's important to note that there's a big difference on when you're watching those behind the scenes. The creators aren't really playing the game. They're generating this video for your enjoyment. They're externalizing it for you.
Right.
This isn't necessarily how they always play. Just
true.
because they're not and I know and you could probably talk to this more, Stuart, is that when you play the game and you're not recording it, it's a much different experience than what comes across through the recording.
It's absolutely true. I mean, if I'm making an episode of 5 Fables and it's all about Robard, I'm taking extra care to write down his thoughts and feelings. I'm crafting a script, and I have his monologues figured out and his dialogue figured out. And so I'm in the game capturing scenes, and I'm piecing together the episode the way that I want the story to be portrayed.
Right.
Whereas if I'm doing something more freeform, like what I'm doing right now with the Mortal Blade, that I'm voicing on the fly. Now, it's not voice work. It's really just pure gameplay for my own enjoyment. I'm crafting a character build as I go, and there's light role-playing going on in there. In other words, I'm making certain decisions in game based on what I know of the character, the character's personality and things like that, but I'm not really voicing anything. And that's the big difference between building something for entertainment value versus just playing the game. That's why I can produce, 8 episodes in 8 days, because I don't have to do all that production work. I don't have to think about it. I can just do it.
Right. Well, and the Mortal Blade 2 is even still, that's just a touch different, because that's an experiment.
Yes.
So you're not necessarily building stepping through and building this character's persona as much as you are experimenting to create a general character type.
Right.
Yep.
So it's a little bit different even in that respect. So I think what it sounds like too, that Pitbull is having some trouble with, is just trying to separate what you see on YouTube and the videos and the Let's Plays, and how do you translate that and bring that into your own game experience? Because ironically, a lot of the Let's Plays you probably see on YouTube are probably not role playing. I mean, it's pieced together to come across that way, and that's the intent.
It's a production job often.
Everything behind the scenes, it kind of strips all that role play right out, and
you spend a lot of time producing video for other people to consume, as opposed to completing the game or the quest for the quest.
So I guess maybe some of the ways it's really just about getting into the right attitude.
Yep.
And bringing yourself, who's this character? Do they have a background? They don't have to have an in-depth one, but if you've got some ideas, great. What's the character? What's their motivation? What's your motivation? Just get a feel for the character and why they use different weapons, why they use different armors, and kind of let the game take you and help you.
And not be judgmental about whether you've picked the right thing or if it's perfect. I mean, it's for you. It's going to evolve.
If you want, if you feel comfortable and you're in a place and you don't, or maybe you don't care if anyone hears, but if you want to voice your character's reactions, great. If not, if you want to write them down, great.
Well, come on. We've all watched something on TV or whatever and shouted at the screen. I mean, there are times in game I feel the same way. I think it's a natural reaction for us to vocalize, and whether you're recording or not is kind of immaterial. Yeah. It's just you're interacting in a much more natural way, not just through the controller or the keyboard. When you start talking to the screen, there's either something wrong, like it might be in my case, or it's just that you've gone past and you've sort of broken that wall, and now you're sort of in it.
So I think it kind of comes down to separating what you're seeing and just really, instead of trying to mimic these different Let's Plays, create your own within the game itself. I mean, if you want to record it, great, but
there's a lot of ways too that you can get yourself in the character headspace. I think one of the simplest ways to do that is find a selection of music that you think would be the soundtrack for your character, and listen to that while you play. I mean, even that, like if it makes all the difference in the world. Like if you're playing a paladin or something like that, and you've got this triumphant or epic music or whatever, this idea in your head of who that individual is and how they should be portrayed. If this was a movie, what would the soundtrack be like? Get out there and find something and
excellent suggestion.
Do that.
I agree.
So.
Well, I was writing that short story for the Camp NaNoWriMo. I did that a lot. Yeah, I'd put on the Jeremy Soule albums in the background and listen to it as I write, because it would get me into the right frame of mind.
Yep, that's incredible. It has a huge impact. I did the same thing when I was doing the writing, all the writing for Aranis Arcana. Depending on what I was trying to portray in the story, I would pick a soundtrack that was either epic or morose, and I would set it on repeat, and I would listen to that over and over while I was writing, and invariably it would almost embed itself into whatever it is I was trying to create. So,
music affects us in ways that we sometimes can't really articulate.
Yep.
And in a case like that, it may put you exactly in the kind of mood that would mimic your character, or may drive some character choices.
Yep.
So
Yep. So those are a few ideas, Pitbull. We certainly hope that helps. You're on the right track. The fact that you're even thinking about this means that you're already well on your way to creating, I think, a pretty good role play. So, write a few things down, get your background figured out, get that basic stuff set out so that you know how you're going to make decisions in game and who this character is, and then find a way to get in touch with that character, either through journal entries like Joe is doing, through a soundtrack, or voicing a character like Matt has done. Any of those things will work. There's probably 10 other ideas you could use as well. So
dress up like your character when you go to work.
There you go.
Absolutely.
There you go. Wear your Naked Nord t-shirt when you play. Wear it only for playing your Naked Nord.
For playing what?
And
Yar.
to kind of conclude, don't be afraid to let your character change.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Once you've got that starting point, don't restrict yourself to letting the character change and evolve with the game.
Totally.
Absolutely. All right.
Good question. I love all these questions.
Very good question.
We should do listener stuff more often.
We should. Bunch of slackers. All right. What's next, Joe?
All right. Next, we have a submission from Trexel Mix.
Trexel.
Keventith.
Trexel Keventith.
From Shreveport, Louisiana.
Excellent.
So Trexel is got a little bit of a background we think we need to go into because he's been pretty detailed on what he submitted here. So
okay, so we have a character concept we're going to respond to. Is that it?
Yeah, more or less.
Okay, let's do this.
Let's start out with some of the background. So Trexel was born of an Altmeri mother and an Orsimer father. Her mother was an Imperial battle mage and has ties to the Sigics.
Okay.
And has stayed loyal to the Emperor rather than join the Altmeri Dominion. His father was an orc that was expelled from the Stronghold because of an incident that destroyed his left hand. And not being able to fight as effectively, and also a master blacksmith, he was no longer... He basically became a weak link in the orc stronghold. So his father was expelled.
All right, so he's an exile for a father.
Yep.
And actually interesting, too, about the mother. She's kind of bucking the system.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So the two of those meet, his mother and father meet.
Okay.
As he was being removed from the stronghold, he came across this Altmer, being dragged back to a camp of necromancers, pretending to be bandits. And exiled orc saves Altmer in distress. And they fall in love, and Trexel is the result.
Okay, excellent.
Aww.
All right, so that's a little bit of background on the parentage question. All right.
Okay, so Trexel starts off in Cyrodiil, and the reason that he comes to Skyrim are twofold. One is that he has this vision or this dream of kind of these two opposing flames, kind of a blue and a white flame. And the second is just a general, what's the word I'm looking for? Disillusionment with the Mages Guild in Cyrodiil, where he is currently studying.
Okay.
So he hoofs it off to Skyrim.
All right, let me recap then to make sure I understand. We've got two reasons for him to leave Cyrodiil and travel to Skyrim. One is that he has a vision of some kind that compels him to go, and the other is that he wants to travel to Skyrim because he's disillusioned with the Imperial Mages College and wants to explore studies somewhere else, presumably Winterhold.
I would assume so.
Okay, and kind of explore through that what that vision might mean.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. That makes sense. So now we understand his parentage and we understand why he's going to Skyrim.
So, he heads out to go to Skyrim because of the vision and to see, what this guild is all about.
Okay.
So then we kind of get into some more particulars, like, that he'll primarily probably be a mage.
Okay.
Which makes sense considering the background study that he would have had.
Okay, so this is more of the mechanics of the things he wants to include in his playthrough?
Right.
Okay.
Restricted on not using illusion, because apparently, the character feels that as being a not entirely honest.
Okay.
Sure.
So primarily destruction, but we're going to stay away from illusion and necromancy.
And necromancy for the obvious parental,
the undead.
Yeah.
parental thing. Which is funny, not funny, but interesting, because it makes a strange quirk since he wants to incorporate Serana as kind of a love interest in the future.
Yeah.
Which will be completely at odds with his anti-undead thing.
Uh-huh. I like the complexity of that.
So that could be a lot of fun to play out.
Yeah. So we've got some emphasis on, Serana's going to be included.
Yep.
There's some restrictions around the kinds of magic he's going to use. He wants to embed the whole Meridia side quest in.
Yeah, and as he's going to find out through his role play is that the two flames from his vision are going to be representative of Meridia and Magnus.
Okay.
So through that, he wants this character to build up his own order, basically.
Okay. So some kind of what's the focus of the order then?
Dedicated to learning magic for the betterment of the entirety of Tamriel, and as a second mission to actively seek out and destroy any and all necromancers and undead in all their forms.
Okay.
Which includes vampires.
All right. So this would be kind of, it would be similar to what the followers of Stendarr do, but maybe from a purely mage type of perspective in some ways.
Yeah, it's almost a more, I don't know,
not the
intellectual.
More of an intellectual
aspect.
pursuit. Okay.
Stendarr would be.
Okay, well, I think that's a pretty good background. So what exactly does Trexel need to know to help him through this?
Trexel has 3 different questions. He wants to know about some mods, suggestions that might help him kind of build his role play, his playthrough. He's looking to see what kind of quests, what are some good quests that would kind of help bring this all together.
Okay.
Or what quests could we bring it all together?
Okay.
And just general thoughts and suggestions on things that would help more fully play in-game and out.
Okay. He mentioned the idea of doing some journaling too, I think.
Yes, he did.
Right?
His character would be a compulsive journal writer. So take notes if you want to do it in-game, which I personally enjoy doing, or just a notebook. That works too.
Yep. Okay, well, let's start at the top. What are some mods that we think would help for this kind of playthrough?
Well, take notes.
Obviously.
Obviously.
Yep. I think that's great. One thought that comes to mind here is making good use of RaceMenu. So if you're going to play a character that's mixed race, you could use RaceMenu that would give you more control over how the character looks. So you could make some adjustments in skin tone, in proportions and stuff like that to try and create a character that looks like they would be a bit more of an Altmer-Orsmer mix.
Right, because out of the box, the game doesn't do that.
Correct.
So you got to manipulate a little bit yourself.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, given all the controls in RaceMenu, that you could pull that off.
Oh, for sure.
Without any trouble.
I think so.
Yep. I think another thing that might be interesting is you could do the vanilla start here. However, I think alternate start might be a good option.
I agree.
With this character.
And start where?
I don't know. There are so many starts in alternate starts.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which one would be the best for this case.
Well, he's traveling from Cyrodiil.
He's traveling from Cyrodiil, so like you say, you could do the I've been captured thing if you want to just take the simple road. Otherwise, you could do I think there's just a camping out option.
Yep. You could do the shipwreck.
You could
say
do the
he
shipwreck.
He came by ship. The shipwreck is a really fun one. You could do Left for Dead. Say that he was ambushed on the border by some bandits and left for dead, and he's got to fend for himself after that. It depends on how dramatic you want your entrance into Skyrim to be.
Right.
Honestly.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm sure the different starts are probably listed on the alternate start page, so you could just
there's a ton of them.
Read through
if
those
there's
quick.
one that lends to something with the story, right?
And you could look it up quick to see if that's going to really be what you want to do or not.
One option too is there's a guild-based start, so you could actually start in the mage's guild, so to speak, right? Which would allow you to start right at the mage college. You could say you'd been there for a year, or you'd been there for a few days, or something like that, and start right there.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So I think that would be good.
Again, it seems like we've kind of mentioned this last few times, but anything that enhances the spell capabilities, Apocalypse spell package, Wintermyst enchantments.
Yep.
Those would both be worthwhile, I think.
I think those are great suggestions, as well as Guild Starter. Sokco's Guild Starter would allow you to create the organization that you're talking about.
Yep.
That would be a great way to play that out, and then you could use any one of hundreds of different either home, castle, or fort mods to create a base of operations for this organization you're creating. Right.
Is there a place that would make the most sense for that to be?
I can't think of anything that would be better than anything else. I think if I were looking to do something like this, though, I might explore what's out there on the Nexus for player homes that are built with some of the assets from the Mage College, to make it feel like kind of a mage-focused kind of thing. I think the other thing, too, is
Caranthir Tower.
There's Caranthir Tower. I think the thing to do is play through this for a while, get a feel for the character, and try to decide who they are as a person. Are they kind of dark and brooding? Are they solitary? Are they social?
I was just wondering what the baggage of the things that you really dislike and the things that have informed your life up to this point. You might, completely eschew having those things in your home, or you might sort of surprisingly surround yourself with that stuff just because it's familiar.
Yeah.
Good point.
I think there's a ton of options there, and part of the fun will be getting out on Nexus and exploring what might be the best base of operations. But Guild Starter will allow you to, put together kind of a nice little cadre of people who will create this organization, as well as any followers that you want to pick up along the way.
You could use Matar. Adal Matar.
Okay.
The pronunciation is always tripped me up. But if you wanted to create your own orc stronghold using Guild Starter.
Yeah, you could go the orc focused route.
Right.
Yeah. And that's kind of a mini quest mod.
Yes.
So you'll get some questing out of it, as well as a place to set up as your base when you're done, which is kind of cool.
Right. So that's an option.
Yep. And I think amazing follower tweaks will probably be a must on something like this, because if you are going to create an organization, then you can have some followers, multiple followers at the same time, and
you can dismiss them where you want a little more easily, and you can gear them up too.
Yep.
So you can get them kind of all a uniform look.
Yep, absolutely. And that would be another thing, right? I mean, you're kind of creating this organization. So once you've pulled everyone together, kind of going through all the great mods out there to figure out what the uniform is going to look like, and all that stuff. It's kind of cool.
I believe some there's was some verbiage concerning the Sijic monks, so it would let you kind of outfit everyone in that same style.
Sure. I think there's quite a few mods out there that have different sort of retextured versions or sets of clothing that start with the Sijic set as a base and then work from there.
Retexture it.
So, maybe explore that a little bit, and you might be able to come up with some variant that you really like.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. What else?
So let's go down to quests.
What are some good quests? Well,
some good quests that might fit this.
Obviously, we're going to probably do the vampire thing if Serana's going to get involved, right?
Yep. So Dawnguard.
Yep. There's any number of different necromancer-related side quests that you can do. Meridia, of course, that's got to be done. So I think, those are all good.
Yep.
You've played through Falskaar more than I have, but my understanding there's a quest in Falskaar that's really focused heavily on necromancy, isn't there?
Oh boy, it's been a while since I've.
Yeah, I want to say that there's a quest that has you kind of traveling all over around Falskaar, rooting out various nests of necromancers who are doing some things.
Yeah, it sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah,
you might be right. If not, Falskaar is still just a wonderful mod to.
Oh yeah,
to have anyway.
Yeah,
but yeah, you could tie it into like that. The bandits, the bandit overhaul.
Yep.
If you want to amp up the danger of your bandit encounters.
Yep, absolutely. And I think the vanilla Skyrim quest that revolves around Patema has a lot to do with necromancy.
Oh yeah,
that would be a really good one to pursue, and could spin off some interesting things as you get more involved with the government in Solitude and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
What else do we know?
Let's see.
Are there any other of the primary quest lines that have kind of a necromantic vibe going on? I think the Alduin quest line does, in that, you're kind of dealing with the dragon priest and the Draugr and stuff.
Right.
I could definitely see doing that.
Yeah.
Possibly.
If you want to tie in kind of this seeker of knowledge, you might be able to tie in then Solstheim and the Black Books.
Yep. You could do that.
It's not quite as direct, but it's possible to do that.
Yep.
Let's see what else.
I just feel like the whole Dawnguard DLC is going to just. There's so much fertile ground there for a character like this to do things, as far as confronting the undead, but then to also be really conflicted and all this kind of stuff. I mean, there's any number of ways to play that through. You could play it straight,
right,
and go through and destroy all those vampires, or you could get really complex,
right,
and have your character turned into a vampire and deal with all of the issues that come of that for a character has the zealous kind of nature.
Right.
So
I don't think it's really undead, but I wonder if it could play a part, and that's the Namira quest. That would be a difficult. Well, no, that shouldn't be a difficult one to get into. That's in Markarth, if I remember right.
Yeah.
But basically, it's just such a vile quest line. It seems like it would be something that this type of character would be vehemently opposed to.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But are there reasons to go through that kind of a thing? You have to push through it. You've got to face your fear.
Right. Yeah, that one I think you would go in after you'd take charge. Going through the motion so that you can get to the bottom of what's going on.
Yeah,
that's how I think that one would have to be played out for a character of this type. Not because you want to see what's coming up next, because you feel you need to.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of options, I guess. But the thing is that there are so many different, little side quests in the vanilla game that are associated with necromancers.
Right.
That you might want to dig around, do a little bit of research, Movarth's Lair. A whole nest of vampires there to go after. That's just part of the standard vanilla game.
Yeah, like and then there's all sorts of little caves and caverns. There's one by the sleeping tree, if I remember right.
Fort Snowhawk filled with them.
Yeah.
So I think there's plenty of opportunities. What I would do is I think of it as kind of interesting, right? We talked in previous episodes about traveling with intent, role playing with intent.
Right.
This is the kind of thing where you could form your group of followers, get all geared up, locate a fort somewhere filled with necromancers, like like Fort Amal is filled with necromancers. Snowhawk is filled with necromancers. There's a fort right by Windhelm filled with them, right?
Yeah.
And go on these missions where you gear up and you travel there for the purpose of rooting them out, and you just go in there and take them out.
Right.
String those together. Boy, that'd be a lot of fun. So
I'm just going to back up just one step because I just thought of it now, but another possible mod might be Unique Uniques, which I believe has a retexture on the Dawnbreaker sword.
Does it?
I thought it did.
Yeah.
If it does, I'd have to look it up again, but look that one up quick. If nothing else, again, it's a good mod because it actually makes unique items look unique.
Yep. You could use something also too, like Easy's Disenchanter, right? Which
So you could apply
it would allow you to disenchant. What's that sword called?
Dawnbreaker.
Yeah, you could disenchant Dawnbreaker and put that enchantment on other things.
Right.
So
you could put it on a special ceremonial weapon.
Yeah.
If you don't like the look of the Dawnbreaker, and if Uniques doesn't change it.
Absolutely.
Which, now that I think about it, it might not. I might have been thinking something else.
Yeah.
But
that would be kind of interesting, right? Have a whole crew of undead hunters, each of which, who wields a similar sword that have that enchant on them. As you're going through rooting out undead, you've got all these flares going off, sun flares going off as they're using their enchanted weapons and, carving not a bloody swath, but a swath through the undead.
Charred swath.
Awesome kill cam footage.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because otherwise, Dawnbreaker is not disenchantable. So.
Yeah. Well, I think we've hit it all. There were some general thoughts, suggestions about things that would help him role play more fully, but I think we've covered a lot.
Folded those in.
Yeah, we folded those in. So I really hope that helps, Trexel. Good luck with that. Keep us posted on how it's going. We'd love to hear more about how this is going and how you end up piecing it all together. So, excellent. Well, this was fun. I do love so much covering Crusader Mail. Your questions are the best. We've still got a significant archive of things that we want to cover, things we've gotten from you guys, either through the web form or through Facebook, things like that. And we're chipping away at it. And Matt, of course, is working on translating some of your written pieces into future Fireside Stories, so we're pretty excited about that. But that brings us to the end of this episode, and, we would like to thank fans of the show for your faithful support and continued encouragement. Your enthusiasm is the lifeblood of this podcast, and whether your support comes through Patreon with dollars or iTunes with reviews or through recommendations to your friends and family, we appreciate it all. You can contact us through our website at charactercrusade.com. And until next time, remember, it's not about the objective, it's about the journey. So go forth and experience.
In a naked Nord shirt.
Yes.
And a Robard shirt.
Yeah, that too.
And with a Stax mug.
Yes. Drinking coffee or whatever else.
times.
I could almost hear the stink of that belch. I'll be honest with you.
It sort of gurgled for a minute.
Yeah, it did, didn't it? It worked up.
I had to let it go.
Gotta let it go sometimes, you know.
Wow, that was nice.
Sorry, I had to back away from the microphone.
Otherwise, Joe would have gone.
That's why we have these splash screens. Oh, wait. These aren't splash screens.
This isn't Subway. One of these days, we're going to have a master cut of all of our laughing. And it's going to be like 25 minutes.
We can make our
of
own
nothing but
laugh
laughing.
track.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent.
That'd be
Watch people
pretty damn sweet.
walking with the podcast
Yes.
uncontrollably laughing, and they won't know why.